Hello and welcome to VuTalk, a podcast brought to you by VuWall. I'm your host, Michelle Dawn Mooney. Today we're talking about the evolution of 911 dispatch centers, and I have a great guest for that conversation today. David Bromberg is Director of Business Development, USA for VuWall. David, good to see you again. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Michelle. It's great to be back. I appreciate it.
Looking forward to getting into this conversation. This is something that affects all of us because we are very dependent on our 911 dispatch centers. And the really cool thing is there's so much new technology that is now available to these centers. So let's start there. What technologies do 911 dispatch operators want?
That is a great question, Michelle, because the feedback from the dispatch operators at the NENA 911 show, that's the National Emergency Number Association show last month at their national event in Kissimmee, Florida, was that they don't want to see the technology. They just want to know how to hit the easy button. And that's what VuWall provides. They loved our drag and drop functionality of TRX. That's our software. The ability to easily build, save, and recall layouts on the fly. And quite often, as you know, and our listeners know, they're dealing with life and death scenarios. So technology really needs to enable information flow, not get in the way of it.
So, in terms of video wall content management technology, are all 911 dispatch centers created equal?
Some are and some are not. Many operate, for example, in small single rooms with 2 to 3 operators at a stand-up desk with a couple of displays. There's no main video wall. The call volume is relatively minimal. Conversely, there are some very large 911 dispatch centers in major metropolitan areas, as you can imagine, with teams of operators who manage content on 6 or more desktop display monitors at their personal workstation with direct interaction to a main video wall via KVM, that's keyboard, video, and mouse. And what this does is it allows them to share content on their own workstation and push detail up to the main video wall for team collaboration. VuWall's KVM and distributed node-based AV over IP solutions enable this to happen very seamlessly.
And David, you mentioned when it comes to the work that the 911 operators do, it really can make the difference between life and death. It's serious business. So what is one of the biggest pain points that 911 dispatch operators experience when they're trying to do their job and potentially save lives?
Sure. The critical work that these operators perform places them in situations where, quite literally, as you just mentioned and I mentioned previously, life and death hangs in the balance. The absolute last thing they need or wish to deal with is an inability to engage with the caller as a result of poor AV design, software that doesn't function or work properly, or bad hardware deployments. So these become impediments, but can absolutely be remedied by working with reputable firms who specialize in these mission critical spaces where 24/7, 365 operations are required. Easy to use technology allows the operators to do their work to the best of their ability, and that's the goal. VuWall delivers on the request with the most user-friendly software and video content management system in the industry.
We talked about the new technology that it's available to 911 dispatch centers. So how are they integrating these new technologies like next generation 911, and what impact does this integration then have on their daily operations?
That's a really good question. Next generation 911, as you just mentioned, more commonly referred to as NG 911, is a digital internet protocol IP based system that will replace the analog 911 infrastructure that's been in place for decades. The success and reliability of 911 will be greatly improved with implementation of NG 911, as it will enhance emergency number services to create a faster, more resilient system that allows voice, for example, photos, video, and text messages to flow really seamlessly from the public to the 911 network. NG 911 will also improve the ability to help manage call overload, which is a big issue. It'll help with natural disaster information and transfer of 911 calls based on caller location data. Because most 911 systems were originally built using analog rather than digital technology, public safety answering points, also known as PSAPs, across the country need to be upgraded to NG911. While the technology to implement the new IP-based 911 systems is available, the transition, Michelle, to NG911 involves much more than just new computer hardware, new robust software. Implementing NG911 in states and counties nationwide will require the coordination of a variety of emergency communication, public safety, for example, legislative and governing
So
entities.
I want to dive a little deeper on that because we both know technology is ever changing and very quickly. And you just discussed some key pieces of technology that is taking us to the next level. So, with that rapid advancement in technology, how are 911 dispatch operators being trained to adapt to these new tools and very quickly? And then, what kind of support do they need during this transition?
That's a great question. Training and support are critical to the success of the deployment. The 911 program's mission plays a very critical role by coordinating federal efforts that support 911 services across the nation. There are a variety of training and certification programs that can be found on the 911.gov website to help dispatchers and center managers, for example, to better understand the move from analog based nationwide systems to an IP based nationwide system. As a manufacturer of IP based technology, VuWall offers post installation commissioning and training to dispatch staff to help them really embrace AV over IP systems and not fear the transition. I should finally mention, Michelle, that the National 911 program plays a critical role in bringing stakeholders together to share information and resources among local, state, federal, tribal agencies, national 911 associations, and other public and private groups focused on developing and providing these 911 services across the country. VuWall is here to assist with this deployment via training and education.
David, before we wrap things up here, I would love to hear about your take with being involved in specifically the 911 dispatch operations. VuWall is involved with a lot of different fields and does great work with a lot of different fields, but this one, it's a little different. As we talked about several times, it really is, it's so important to so many people. And as we mentioned, potentially life-saving. So what is it like for you all to be involved with that in helping to get these 911 dispatch operators up to a level where they can truly do the best job that they can?
Absolutely. I was at the show, as I mentioned, in Kissimmee, Florida last month, and I got to hear firsthand from the operators that typically run a shift. They're sitting at their workstation for 6 to 8 hours per shift, and I realized what they do every day truly, truly matters. They are out there, sometimes literally walking people off the ledge, saving lives potentially. And in order for them to do their jobs effectively, they need to embrace technology. But most importantly, as I mentioned early on, is not the technology itself, but what they do on the daily. And we, as a manufacturer and technology provider, need to help them achieve and accomplish their mission. And we do that with very easy to use hardware and software. Again, I don't want to make this specifically about the solution that VuWall comes to the table with. I want to make this about the operator at the dispatch center and how we can make his or her life easier so that they can become more effective in the work they do every day.
David Bromberg, Director, Business Development USA for VuWall. David, thank you for being here today. Important information and important jobs that hopefully VuWall can help them do, as you said, to the best of their ability, their job that makes such a big impact on so many lives. So appreciate your time and the conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening to VuTalk. Of course, you can go to the website, as David said, for more information. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast to hear more engaging conversations like the one you heard today. I'm your host, Michelle Dawn Mooney. Thanks again for joining us. We hope to connect with you on another podcast soon.